Hey guys, I'm Urizi. This story is all about what if Sakura's character was rewritten. A rewrite of Sakura, in which a blunt and eccentric OC is placed into the body of Sakura Haruno at the start of the series. Nothing at all could possibly go wrong. Before we proceed with the story, please like and subscribe to this channel if you liked the video, and don't forget to check the description for the other works of the author if you liked the story. Let's start. Chapter 19, Food Bribes. The next morning I got to wake up to the beautiful face that was Sasuke's. The puppet master had been at my bed, glaring with icy hatred upon my sleeping form, waiting for me to wake up. "Good morning," I chirped, smiling adoringly at him. "How was your night?" Filled with boredom, Sasuke snapped. "You will rue the day you trapped me, you insufferable, petulant brat." "I'll leave the TV on downstairs tonight then, okay?" I offered. "I'll purchase some audiobooks, too. If there's anything you want, let me know. I want my freedom." "You'll get that in about a year," I dismissed, hopping out of my bed and pulling my shirt off. He made a disgusted noise at that, but refused to turn away. He was likely trying to show that he didn't give a flying hoot, which was very possible. "Ready for today? You'll get to meet one of my teammates and then we're gonna go on a super duper fun mission." Sasuke sneered. "Planning on kidnapping more people?" "Always. You're insane." "So I've been told." I finished getting dressed and headed downstairs to make breakfast. Then I sensed a delightfully familiar chakra at my front door, and I hurried to let him inside. "My child," I squealed with delight, throwing myself at a sheepish Naruto. Naruto laughed, catching me and pulling me into a tight hug. "You're back. Do you want breakfast, honey?" "Breakfast sounds great," Naruto chirped, pulling back. "How've you been?" "Oh, you know. Worshipping the goggle gods, making everyone around me uncomfortable, standard stuff." I waved my hand dismissively. "Is Jiraiya with you?" "Nah. Perv took off as soon as we got back." Naruto shoved his hands in his pockets. "Kakashi-sensei with you?" "Yep. We live together still." "He go insane, yet?" "Not yet," Kakashi answered tiredly from behind me. "Naruto, come on in. We've gained a couple more roommates." Naruto stepped inside, curious about who else had joined us. "Kimimaro, you remember him, right? Lives downstairs now," I said, "but he's pretty shy so he doesn't like to come up often. He's also suffering from a lot of memory loss, so watch what you say around him. Don't mention anything about the snake fella." Naruto was momentarily surprised by this, but nodded along. "Okay. We also have a tree baby." "Is this like your fur baby?" No. Although Brightheart does still live with us. Our tree baby is named Tenzo and—" "I am not your tree baby," Tenzo corrected, poking his head around the corner of the kitchen to glare at us. His glare softened when he looked over at Naruto. "I'm Tenzo. A friend of Kakashi's." I made an offended noise. "But not mine." "Definitely not," Tenzo informed me. "Ah," Naruto said, slinging an arm around my shoulder when I pouted at Tenzo's cruel words. "You don't need that jerk. I'll find you a million friends who are 10 times better than he is." I sniffled. "You're so good to me." Naruto grinned brightly at me. "Yep. So how about some pizza?" I laughed at that. "Okay. But once we're done eating we all gotta go to Tsunade. I have some fun information to give her." Tenzo and Kakashi groaned at that. Once everyone who was important in Tsunade's office, Tenzo, Kakashi, Naruto, Shizune, Tsunade, and myself, I decided to cut straight to the chase. "We have a chance to hunt down Orochimaru and bring Sasuke back." The responses were immediate. Naruto's eyes were wide, while everyone else tensed and prepared for the rest of the information. Sasuke snorted from the background. Sasuke had a spy within Orochimaru's organization, and a rendezvous was scheduled, I continued. From the ever so slight twitch from Sasuke, I knew I caught his attention. If he were an emotional man he might have started yelling at me about how I knew that information. But Sasuke was a careful man. It was starting to become clear he couldn't intimidate me, and the fact that I knew information only he and his spy ought to have known was bound to catch his interest. The thing is, the spy double-crossed Sasori a long time ago, I said, ignoring the narrowing of Sasori's eyes. Sasori had used a seal to control the spy's mind, but Orochimaru found the seal and broke it. Since Orochimaru and Sasori used to be partners in the Akatsuki, so Orochimaru knew what to look for. Tsunade leaned forward on her desk, steepling her fingers together. What are the chances of success on this mission? I shrugged, the answer spilling out of me with ease. Around 25% for complete success. No chance of failure since I'm prepared, but there's a good 75% all parties escape. It's still important to make contact at this point because Sasuke requires some of my information in order to safely, not kill his brother. We're going, right? Naruto demanded. We gotta save Sasuke. Tsunade and I continued to stare at one another, as she considered my information. The past couple of years had given her ample amount of evidence of how accurate I was. As in I was literally never wrong before. I wasn't entirely certain how she was handling all the information found under the office, in addition to my future knowledge, but I knew she trusted what I said. She wouldn't have accepted me as her apprentice, or appointed me as hospital second director if she didn't trust me. Tsunade finally gave a slow nod. Fine. Get ready to leave in an hour. Naruto, start packing. Sakura, Tenzo, Kakashi, all three of you stay. Naruto was perturbed by having us stay, but he left without a fuss. He wasn't going to complain about getting a chance to rescue one of his friends, after all. Tsunade leaned back in her chair. Tell me everything that's going to happen, Sakura. With ease, the answer came. We're going to meet with Orochimaru, go back to his base, and then he is going to take Sasuke and leave. We will get to talk to Sasuke, but he will remain adamant in his pursuit of Itachi. Will the Akatsuki show up, or Danzo? Akatsuki, no, I said, doing my best not to look at the extremely interested Sasori. Danzo is going to insist that we fill our spot on the team with one of his root members, but he is easily persuaded to our side. How easily? Naruto can therapy no jutsu him after an hour of talking, I stated firmly. If that fails, then I can do it myself. Will Danzo provide enough information to incriminate himself here? No, but Orochimaru might be interested, I said, and then more words came out without my permission, since Danzo was the one who hired Orochimaru to kill Sarutobi. Oh. My. God. I gaped. Tsunade was gaping at me. Shizune gasped. Tenzo stared at me in disbelief. Kakashi was, well, he remained largely unaffected, but I knew he was equally as surprised as me. I mean, I knew that information already, but I didn't expect it to literally slip out. He what? Tsunade howled, slamming her hands on her desk and utterly smashing it. Yeah, I said, how else did you expect Orochimaru to get up-to-date security codes to slip through the barrier? His main spy was Kabuto, and Kabuto wouldn't have that kind of access. Orochimaru lost all his spies in the Umbu when Minato took over and did a purge. Bits of killing intent started to leak off Tsunade, and Shizune was quick to try and soothe her. It'll be okay, Tsunade-sama. We'll stop Danzo. We've already almost finished identifying all the root agents. Neato, I thought. Tsunade took a deep breath, raising her head to glower at the three of us. Kakashi, Tenzo, make damn sure that old shithead doesn't get Sakura. Sakura, you really think Orochimaru will give us evidence against Danzo? Orochimaru already knows the complete list of all of Danzo's root agents. He'd be delighted if we took care of them for him, I said with a shrug. He also knows where all of Danzo's bases are. Get that information from Orochimaru whatever the cost, Tsunade ordered. All of you are dismissed. An hour later Sasori had been giving me a look the whole time, but refused to say anything. I was packed and ready to go at the entrance. Tenzo had been called back into Tsunade's office barely 10 minutes after we left, so only Kakashi was with me when we arrived at the gate. Naruto showed up shortly afterwards, a tan bag slung around his back, and his hands shoved into his pockets. So, happy reunion. Happy reunion, I said with a smile. When we get back we'll have a proper welcome party for you. No strippers, Kakashi immediately denied. I opened my mouth to suggest something else, but Kakashi also added, and you can't jump out of any cakes. Same for Enko. Ugh. Sourpuss. Lucky I love you so dang much. Kakashi shrugged, unrepentant. Naruto scratched his cheek, his face scrunching up as he considered any suggestions for the party. What about a pool party? That way Sakura still gets to admire some booties, and everyone loves pool parties. This got a squeal from me, and a tired look from Kakashi. He said, no. Stop encouraging her. I mean, I'm her best friend. If I don't enable her, what's the point? Naruto asked, shrugging. To keep her from driving your favorite teacher insane, Kakashi suggested lightly. Nah. That sounds boring. Our poor teacher sighed. Yo, Tenzo said, flickering over to join our group. Behind him was Sai, who smiled with fake politeness. This is Sai. Our new team member. I waved at him. Are you a boobs or butt kind of guy? Sai continued to smile. Neither. Wait, does that mean you like dick? I asked. Or nothing at all? Oh, I'm Sakura. Nice to meet you. This is my son, Naruto. Naruto didn't bat an eye at the introduction, choosing instead to salute to Sai. Sup. I guess I'm her son, Naruto. Sai blinked once at that, his smile dropping. Hello. I am Sai. This is Kakashi. I'm his butt advocate, I introduced, gesturing towards Kakashi who accepted my title with a tired sigh. What's a butt advocate? Sai questioned. It means I speak on behalf of his butt, I explained. Because he has the best booty in the whole wide world, and humanity deserves to admire it. Run while you can, Kakashi advised Sai. Far, far away. I don't believe that will be necessary, Sai said. The ugly pink-haired lady, and her son don't seem to pose much of a threat. I made an offended noise while Naruto squawked and made a move to give Sai a good black eye. Kakashi easily held him back, though. I can tell this is gonna be fun, Tenzo said dryly. I looked down at my attire, a long-sleeved red shirt with a wide enough collar to keep my shoulders exposed. I matched it with a pair of black leggings, knee-high boots that doubled as shin guards, and thick black gloves. I don't think this looks ugly. You're beautiful, Sakura. Don't listen to that freak, Naruto immediately consoled me, being the super supportive best friend that he was. Thanks, baby boy. This is only going to get weirder, isn't it? Sasori muttered to himself. I started to whistle innocently. Tenzo was right about one thing, it was lots of fun. Sai kept making remarks to bait Naruto, and Naruto fell for each one of them. It was getting more on Tenzo's nerves as time wore on Kakashi, and I didn't give a flying hoot because we were chill like that, and he finally broke down and ordered all of us to take a break at a luxurious hot spring in hopes of getting Naruto and Sai to get along. He even made Naruto and Sai share a bedroom. Obviously I got to back with Kakashi since he was my bodyguard. He did make me promise that if he bought me all the dessert I wanted I would keep my hands off him and his equipment for the rest of the mission. Completely worth it. Those sweet dango sticks were the bomb. And why Tenzo was about to lose his shit with all the bickering going on between Sai and Naruto, so I decided to take pity and work my magic. After I chugged down a buffet of dessert, of course. Hey, Naruto, I said, grabbing my friend and dragging him into his assigned room. I need you to do me a favor. What's up? Naruto asked. I need you to use therapy no jutsu on Sai, I told him, shoving him into the boys' shared bedroom. What? No way. He's a dick. He was forced to kill his own brother by an evil asshole called Danzo, and he's now on a mission to kill Sasuke. If you don't therapy no jutsu his butt and make him start to feel things again, then I'ma be forced to poison him, I said flippantly. What? Sasori deadpanned. I don't want to, Naruto whined. You're doing it, I told him, throwing him into the bedroom before heading back out to get Sai. Don't even try dodging out of it, mister. That's the price you pay when you dump your plants on me and abandon me with no letters for years. I'm sorry, Not yet, you're not. Please don't lock me in here with Sai. It's happening, I sung, spotting Sai heading towards us from down the hall. I sprinted over to him, grabbed his arm, dragged him into the bedroom, then slammed the door shut behind him. I promptly sat down on the hallway floor, and called out, "If either of you try to sneak out before everything is peachy, I'll make you both trip so hard you'll start stripping in the streets." Naruto's groan of frustration was pretty funny. 3 hours, and a thoroughly destroyed room later, Sai confessed to working with Root by showing us his tongue tattoo. I didn't believe in therapy no jutsu, Tenzo apologized to Naruto afterwards. "That's okay. Everyone doubts it at first," Naruto said, forgiving Tenzo for his heresy. With Sai now on board, he no longer kept trying to bait Naruto. But he did talk about dicks a lot. Namely Naruto's, but whatever floats your boat, honey. We got back on the road for another day, and when we reached the point where we were supposed to meet Orochimaru, Tenzo had us stop for a break to confirm the plan. Ignoring Naruto's objection to the location, Tenzo used his wood style to summon up an empty wooden house. We entered it, heading up the stairs and checking it out. Finally we settled on a room, dumping our stuff along the walls. Tenzo lit a candle and placed it in the center of the room, asking all of us to gather around. "All right, so give us the rundown again," Kakashi ordered. I cleared my throat. "So we're going to be meeting a spy of Sasuke's, who works for Orochimaru. Tenzo will have to mimic Sasuke at first in order to get the drop on Sasuke. Tenzo said, I have a file about him from Suna, but I need you to tell me his personality, speech pattern, gestures, and mannerism, in as much detail as you can." "Very well. Where to begin?" "Sasuke is impatient. He hates to keep people waiting, and he hates to be kept waiting. He repeatedly notes it, in fact. He's quite proud of his puppets, referring to them as the perfect art. Though I must admit, art is eternal. Anyway. Sasuke is rather indifferent in actuality, but while he hides inside of Hirako he can come off a bit dry." I then began to launch into a lengthy explanation for what I knew about Sasuke. It was actually quite a lot. Sasuke was staring at me in complete horror when I got into his secret desire to be with his parents, and his bitter loneliness and whatnot. By the end of it, Naruto was even starting to sniffle and said, "I wish I had a chance to talk with him." "Okay then," Kakashi said slowly. "Thanks. I'm sure Tenzo got plenty of information." Tenzo had a dead look in his eyes. How much do you know about all of us?" "You really have no privacy as long as I'm around," I admitted to him. This made the tree baby groan and rub his forehead for a while. "Okay. Whatever. The strategy is simple. First scenario, I successfully restrain the target. Second scenario, if I fail at restraining the target and we fall into battle, you three get into battle formation. I will signal when to do this." At noon 2 days later, we all gathered at the bridge. Naruto, Sai, Kakashi, and I crouched in the shadows of the forest at one end of the bridge. Sasuke had drifted off in the center of the bridge. On one end of the bridge was the spy, who slowly walked towards the middle. At the other end, I could see Yamato disguised as Hirako approaching. I let out a soft sigh, preparing myself. Third-person POV, Sasuke. Sasuke drifted to the center, staring impassively at the spy. Sasuke was a little miffed, to say the least. The fact that he had been outsmarted by a brat enforced prisoner, did not bode well with him. He had believed himself to be a clever man he had to be in the business he ran. But to be outsmarted by a mere child. And worse, his original plans of escaping were dashed by this prison that now held his physical body. Even if he killed her, it would only cause more harm than good. A nuisance, really. Perhaps if Sasuke had even heard of this prison, things would have been different. There was always a way to escape cells, it was simply a matter of finding the key. But how could Sasuke hope to find a key, when he did not even understand the lock? It was a vexation, truly. But it would only require time and patience before he did understand his lock and he found the key. While normally Sasuke was not a patient man, he could be patient when needed. And this situation certainly required patience. For the moment Sasuke was free, he had the intentions of ridding himself and the world of this girl. His normally uncaring heart decided to make an exception for this situation. A strange thing indeed, when Sasori once again felt irritation. Perhaps though, it was only because he was not physically attached to his body anymore that he could feel such things again. It was an interesting thought that would require further investigation. However, Sasori allowed himself to be thankful that he was bound to this girl and not rotting away in a prison. How dreadfully boring that would have been. At least while following her, she proved to be entertaining. At least she did not grate on his nerves like his previous partner. No, she was not audacious and seemed inclined to think ahead. Something of which he was slightly pleased about. Had she been as bad as Deidara or worse, Toby Sasori wasn't quite sure what he would do. Overall, it could have been worse, but not much. And then there was how she knew things. Sasori never told anyone about his childhood, or his likes and dislikes. Even his wretched grandmother didn't know what foods he used to like, or what songs he enjoyed. She was supposed to be Kisame's fangirl, why did she stalk Sasori to such an extent? How can she see straight through him? How bothersome. Sasori was pulled from his thoughts as he noticed the approaching spy and the approaching mimic of him. It was a little odd to see himself walking towards him. Finally, Hirako had reached the spy, stopping before him. "It's good to see you again, Sasori-sama," came the soft voice of the spy. The spy slowly turned around, revealing his face towards Sasori's imitation. Kabuto was the name of the spy if Sasori could recall. Which, naturally, he could. "It's been 5 years, hasn't it?" Kabuto asked, his voice coming out slightly muffled from the harsh winds of the bridge. "Were you followed?" the imitation asked. "No, we're fine." "How are you holding up?" Sasori's eyes narrowed. A pointless question. Something in which he would have never bothered to ask. What difference did it make what the spy felt? Kabuto was merely a tool, used as his subordinate. What did it matter if he was ecstatic or depressed? His mimic was doing a poor job of imitating Sasori, even with all that bombardment of information Sakura gave him. "I still feel a bit shaken from when your technique was released and remembering who I really am," Kabuto answered, seemingly thrown by the question. He shook his head. "My mind is a bit clouded, as well." Preposterous. The mind seal placed inside the tool eliminated all doubt, all emotions, all hindrances into serving Sasori the moment it was released. Was she correct about Orochimaru unraveling my mind seal? She was unervingly right about everything else. "I've got a few questions for you," the imitation began. Once again, Sasori had to restrain himself from shaking his head. He would never bother with introductory at such a meeting. This, fake, was being far too polite. He did not understand Sasori at all. "We don't have much time, please keep it brief." A flash of annoyance raced through Sasori. How dare a traitorous subordinate speak to him in such a manner? Even if it was to an imitation to him. "I'm risking my life just by being here," Kabuto went on. Had Sasori been able to do something at that moment, he would have killed Kabuto then and there. Damn shame he couldn't. "Tell me what you know about his hideouts, and Uchiha Sasuke." Sasori shook his head in disgust. Why would he care about Uchiha? While having the Sharingan implanted in a puppet would be most useful, he had no intentions of going out of his way to hunt down a mere boy. It was hardly worth his effort. Furthermore, he already knew where Orochimaru's bases were. Did they honestly suspect that Kabuto was his only spy inside Orochimaru? Granted, he was the closest spy to the former partner, but did they really believe Sasori so inane that he wouldn't come to the conclusion that he needed more spies? Imbeciles. Nevertheless, Kabuto answered the imitation, despite the wrongness of it all. "There are several hideouts. He switches from one location to the next each week to keep his whereabouts hidden. Of course, he has them in many countries, not just his village land. Orochimaru's spies sneak in, set them up and manage them in his absence. But he makes use of many different methods to switch locations, so tracking him isn't easy." "Where is he now?" "Currently, he's concealed himself on an island in a northern lake and will move in 3 days." Sasori's gaze snapped towards Kabuto. That was incorrect information. Sasori knew Orochimaru's patterns for switching hideouts. At this point he would be residing in his hideout in Kusagakur, a few hours' run from this very bridge. He would switch in 5 days to his southern hideout, 6 days away from this bridge. This spy was lying to him, on purpose. Clouded mind, emotions, disrespect, and now lying. Briefly, Sasori's mind wandered back to what that girl had said. Had Sasori not been staring right at it, he would have said impossible. Not only had Orochimaru destroyed his seal, but this spy was a traitor. For a moment, Sasori was overcome with the strong desire to murder the little vermin. He was overcome with frustration and resentment to how he couldn't. But it was only for a moment because Sasori did not allow such folly things to guide him. Soon, he was calm again with mild irritation, mixed with curiosity. How had the girl known? Curious, indeed. Sasori's eyes flickered back towards the girl. She had hidden herself well, but Sasori knew where she was. He could feel her pulling him in softly, the same sensation he had felt the moment he realized he truly was bound to her for the time being. It was annoying for the most part, but useful at times like this. His eyes flickered to hers and they locked. Green meeting brown. Her eyes danced with amusement, and his reflected nothing. She was amused. At his annoyance, no less. The brat. Uchiha Sasuke is there as well, the useless, what good was a traitor, spy finished, pulling Sasori's attention back towards him. By the way. The arrogant little prick was interrupted from his statement, his gaze swinging over to a bush on the other side of the bridge. A brown rabbit hobbled out. Sasori almost snorted. Oh? Just a rabbit. The ex-subordinate murmured. The expendable boy turned back towards the imitation. Anyway, about the matter you ordered me to look into, Sasori resisted sighing aloud. He ordered no such thing. It was clear the unpurposed miscreant was merely trying to test the imitation. The body that Orochimaru transferred out of had protective wards surrounding it, so I was unable to obtain the cell samples you requested. Cell samples? What good would cell samples be of use to him? Sasori already knew the basics of Orochimaru's technique, and he was not interested in such fleshy and unstable jutsus. It did nothing to prolong his life and it showed no artistic value. Besides, he still had plenty of Orochimaru still stuck to some of his puppet's swords. I see. If you would please, hurry up and give me the item, the apostate said. I can't afford to stay here any longer. He then had the gall to hold out his hand in expectation. I'll be killed if he finds out I'm here with you. Fine. The imitation then prepared to rush forward, pulling out a kunai in the process, only to stop right where he was. Orochimaru appeared right behind the ignorant boy. A thick snake wrapped around the Sunin's waist, hissing at the imitator. Interesting conversation, mind if I join you? Orochimaru smiled. The incompetent boy jumped away from Orochimaru, landing in front of the imitator, taking up a guarding stance as if he actually intended to defend the imitator. Sasori-sama, if you hadn't drawn your kunai, I wouldn't have been able to dodge in time. Abortive trash declared. As if Sasori would have wasted his time in saving its life. That outfit, it reminds me of the old days, Sasori, Orochimaru commented. You followed Kabuto? The imitator inquired. Don't be rude, I thought I'd come and thank you. This child you sent me was truly a blessing. When I developed new techniques, I used to go through over 100 test subjects for each one I created. But thanks to this boy's medical abilities, I was able to use the same subject over and over again. So glad to be of assistance, Sasori replied dryly, despite knowing his words fell in deaf ears. I had been running low on them recently, you see. The unusable juvenile's right hand flickered blue with chakra. He held it up, his face set into determination and then had the nerve to attack his imitator. Even though it wasn't actually Sasori, it was the principle of the matter. A subordinate X or otherwise should never attack his master. Sasori didn't bother trying to rein in his moment of sheer annoyance at the situation. The fake's disguise crumbled away and the man inside leapt back and away. And that was when things got a little more interesting. Sakura's POV. I have an ever better idea, I said, walking across the bridge with a skip in my step. How about we all take a nice lovely walk back to your base? Orochimaru's eyes lit up with amusement. Oh? And why would I allow that? Well, we could get ourselves all covered in blood, sweat, and dirt, and you'll be forced to retreat there, I said slowly, because you know you're dealing with the Kyubijin Shuriki, a devoted fangirl who has had years to prepare to face you, 2S ranked nin, and an artist with an odd obsession with dicks. That does sound like a hassle, Orochimaru commented on. Doesn't it? Then we'll follow you back to your base, which is exactly 1 kilometer away in that exact direction, I said, pointing to where exactly his base. I mean, it's a nice looking base, all surrounded by rocks that remind me a bit of what it would look like inside a stomach. Kabuto's eyes widened at my knowledge, and he glared balefully at me. Orochimaru only had a smile that stretched a bit too wide on his face, and eyes that gleamed with unhidden curiosity. Orochimaru casually asked me, "Were you prepared for me in the forest?" I was, I admitted honestly. Fascinating. Orochimaru chortled. Yes, a pleasant walk there does sound rather nice, doesn't it? I'm sure Sasuke-kun has missed you all terribly. I clapped my hands together and beamed. Alright? I mean, how could he not miss us? We're, like, amazing. Orochimaru's lips twitched and he inclined his head. Do try to keep up. Then he took off at a speed that would definitely put me to my limits. I knew he could move a lot faster, but the fact that he chose to move at a speed we could keep up was oddly kind. Or eccentric might be the better word. Kind was not a word I would normally describe Orochimaru. I am curious about something, though, Orochimaru drawled. I'm sure you'll answer me honestly, Sakura-chan, since we're being cooperative. I saluted him. Sure. How exactly do you know the future? This immediately caught Sasori's attention, too. The ghost of the puppet master stared at me intensely while I answered Orochimaru's question. I worship the goggle gods, I explained to him, they grant me knowledge of the future. Orochimaru genuinely wore an expression of surprise at that. Goggle gods? You know, I actually knew a fellow who had a stick that was blessed by what he claimed was the goggle gods. I gasped. The rainbow stick story. Then you met the high priest, Obito. I don't believe his name was Obito, Orochimaru disagreed, but I don't know his real name, anyway. It's very interesting that you both mention such a curious name, though. Not at all. The goggle gods always watch over us, I said loyally. Then more words that did not belong to me came from my mouth, they always visit me when I sleep. Truly remarkable. Why are you telling Orochimaru so much? Naruto muttered beside me. Because he's going to help save the world, I answered him. And say what you want about his experiments, but his research has saved countless lives. He's invented more cures, procedures, and techniques than almost any Irionin except Tsunade that are still in use to this very day. Although his methods are unnecessarily cruel, in my opinion, but that doesn't make him any less of a genius scientist that deserves respect. Orochimaru seemed pleased by my answer. I've rarely encountered someone so civil. Why are with Konoha again? Because my loved ones are there, I said with a shrug. Besides, I don't really have room to judge you when I literally test painful poisons on people I face in battle. And have killed a lot of people. Like a lot. Like I think I've lost count by this point. You're only at 59, Kakashi supplied for me. Oh, thanks, I said, smiling back at Kakashi with adoration. You're keeping count for me. Unintentional side effect, Kakashi said, tapping where his Sharingan was hidden. 59, Orochimaru repeated, clicking his tongue, so innocent still. Hey. I protested, I so popped my kunoichi cherry, like, 2 years ago. I'm a hardened killer. A hardened killer with bubblegum pink hair. Sai wondered. Don't mock the hair. Makes it easier for people to remember me and it gives me main character plot armor, I said, tossing my long hair over my shoulder. You can't kill someone with pink hair. Huh. Orochimaru blinked. I've now realized I actually haven't killed anyone with pink hair. I gestured towards the snake Sunin. See? Plot armor. Naruto tugged on his bangs. So should I dye my hair pink? Nah. You can use therapy no jutsu, so that gives you plot armor. Sweet, Naruto said, nodding his head. Oh. I remembered what was in my pack, and I reached around and pulled out a bento box. I held it out to Orochimaru. I promised you lunch. Orochimaru accepted the box, opening it up. Oh? What's this? Calzone, with some scones, I explained. You know. Orochimaru took a bite out of the calzone, entirely uncaring if it was poisoned or not. Given his hella strong resistance to poison, it wouldn't have mattered anyway. Not bad. Not bad. Naruto repeated, incredulous. Sakura makes the best food in the world. Take that back. Orochimaru took another bite out of the calzone, looked Naruto dead in the eye and said, not bad. Okay, he is asking for ass-kicking now. Now, I soothed. We're almost at the base. Then you'll get to see Princess Duck Butt again, and don't you want that? Naruto sighed. Yeah. Sai blinked. I was unaware Sasuke was a princess. He's just as melodramatic as one, I explained. Plus all Uchiha are as pretty as princesses, so. Orochimaru nodding along to this. Yes, I have noticed his touch for the drama. Like you have room to talk. I questioned. Or me for that matter, I guess. Perhaps it's merely the mark of a powerful shinobi. Orochimaru guessed. That makes sense. All the strong ones are crazy in some aspect, I agreed. We got Kakashi with his obsession over a 12-year-old boy and girl, Naruto with ramen, me with booties, Sasuke with his vengeance. Yeah, I think it's safe to say all the strong ones are crazy. I don't have an obsession with a 12-year-old boy, Kakashi protested, aghast. I gave him a look of plain disbelief. Orochimaru finished his calzone and said, here we are. Welcome to my little abode. Kabuto, open the door. Kabuto reluctantly did as he ordered, and Orochimaru escorted us through his base. We only had to walk for another few minutes before we reached Sasuke's assigned room. Naruto kicked the door open. Time to go home, bastard. I kicked the door that was now shattered to pieces on the floor because I also wanted a dramatic entrance. Yeah. What he said? Sasuke immediately got up from his seat, pulling out his katana and summoning his Sharingan. Hey now. Remember your promise not to kill me, I reminded him. I've perfected my poison to make people strip, and I am so not above bombarding you with that when you start your fight with Itachi. Oh, God, I lived for those death glares. Orochimaru coughed into his hand, doing a piss-poor job to hide his laugh. Yes, well. I'll leave you all alone for a while. I'll come back for you later, Sasuke-kun. Try not to kill our guests. With that, Orochimaru left us alone. I waited until his chakra signature was gone. Damn, he really was pretty arrogant leaving us alone. Not that I could blame him, all things considered, before I gave the all-clear signal. How did you manage to convince Orochimaru to bring you in as guests? Sasuke questioned, lowering his katana. By being nice, I said cheerily. And that actually worked. Sure. I also used food, like I'm about to do with you. I pulled out another bento box from my pack and held it out to him. Come with us and you get free food. No. But it's pizza. I exclaimed, holding it up for Sasuke to see. And I brought you a jar of my homemade marinara sauce. Sasuke snorted disdainfully. You cannot bribe people with food, Sakura. See, that's where you're wrong. I bribed Kakashi to let me buy a cha-cha, I told him proudly. And he's starting to succumb to my bribes of food in exchange for getting to wear his shirts. You're giving in to her? Sasuke asked Kakashi, his lips twitching. Is this the part where I congratulate you two now? No, Kakashi denied strongly while I chirped, yeah. Sasuke, you gotta come back with us, Naruto said firmly, folding his arms over his chest. How can you stand to be with someone so obviously insane? Sasuke pointedly looked at me. Naruto, clearly offended on my behalf, objected indigently, Sakura is not insane. Sasuke raised an eyebrow, and Tenzo coughed from behind us. I didn't have to see Kakashi's eye roll to know it was absolutely there. Putting a pin in that discussion, I drawled out, Naruto wants you to come home, duck butt. You wanna come home? No. Not until I kill Itachi. Then you'll come back. Naruto pressed. Sasuke pursed his lips, so I added my own incentive. If you never come home, I'm tearing down the district and putting a Goggle Gods temple that will double as a strip club. It'll be named Bakakashi. What? Kakashi hissed out from behind. Tenzo started coughing heavily, struggling to hide his laughter. How are you not in a straitjacket? Sasori wondered, sounding like he was honestly baffled I wasn't living in a padded room. Sasuke's face cringed like he just bit into something sour. You actually would, too. Something to think about, I said cheerfully. Well, it looks like Duck Butt isn't ready to come home, yet, Naruto. Since you're his friend, you'd be supportive and wait for him, right? Why you gotta put it like that, Sakura? Now I have to wait for his stupid ass, otherwise I'm a bad friend. Naruto complained. Fine. After you kill your brother, if you aren't back home in 3 days, I'm breaking your legs and dragging your dumb ass home. Okay, Sasuke agreed to, clearly not believing Naruto would be able to do that. So you'll leave now. I took out a scroll from my bag and shoved it into Sasuke's hands. Read that. Burn it when you're done. Probably best not to let Orochimaru read it. Got it, Sasuke said, tucking the scroll away. Goodbye. Fuck you, Naruto said eloquently, huffing and stomping out the room. I'm afraid I'm going to have to insist we take our leave now, Orochimaru remarked, stepping into the room, smiling with his usual kind of creepy smile. The base will be self-destructing soon. If I were you guys, I'd run. Oh, fun. I walked out of the room, brushing past Orochimaru. I didn't miss the fact that he slipped a scroll in my hand, and I didn't comment on it. Leaving the base was pretty easy. Even if Naruto was hella sulky about it, but by the time we made it back to Konoha he had perked up. Especially since I promised to bake him whatever cake he wanted. Tenzo kept dropping so many hints at a baked Alaska that Naruto ended up deciding to give that one a try. The tree baby looked immensely satisfied with himself for successfully manipulating Naruto into picking out his favorite treat. The trip back to Konoha was uneventful in comparison. Sai was still quiet, but he did express an interest in trying my food, so we invited him along for cake, too. I sent Naruto off to shop for the supplies with Sai, because poor baby needed some sunshine in his life, and I, along with Kakashi and Tenzo, headed off to Tsunade's office to give her the mission report. I hopped through Tsunade's window, holding up a scroll proudly. Here you go. The info you wanted for the gardening project. Kakashi and Tenzo climbed in behind me, both curious about the scroll. Tsunade's eyebrows rose. That creep actually gave that to you. The enemy of my enemy is my friend, I said with a shrug. I hid a note asking about it in the bento I gave him, and he subtly handed this back to me afterwards. Tsunade accepted the scroll, doing a cursory examination before opening it up. A quick scan had a wicked grin on her face. It's actually here. I gave her a thumbs up. Yep. Anything else I should know? Can't think of anything else, yet. Unless, think we should have a pool party to welcome Naruto back. No, Kakashi said passionately. Tsunade's evil grin widened. Actually, I do think that sounds like an excellent idea. Shit, Kakashi whispered in quiet despair. Tenzo patted Kakashi's shoulder in consolation. Bonus. Sasori no Dano was killed, Deidara grunted, his hologram turning its head to glare hatefully at Kisame. By your stupid fan, Kisame-san. All eyes turned towards the unrepentant Kisame, who was definitely hiding the apology cake Sakura had sent him the very same day she won against Sasori. Itachi had already eaten his half. Who knew he could be such a pig of sweet things? Not that Kisame could blame him. Shit tasted great. Kisame shrugged. Whoops. Can't you control her? Deidara demanded. I just lost my partner, yeah. How can I control her, exactly? Kisame asked. She clearly has no issues fighting me. What do you want me to do, kill her? Yes. Next time I'm in Konoha I'll be sure to do that, Kisame said dryly. Enough, Pain cut in. Zetsu, are you able to salvage Sasori's spine at work? It will take a while, but it can be done, Zetsu answered. Get it done, Pain ordered. Kisame, try to control her. Yeah. I'll get right on that. If Pain noticed the sarcasm in Kisame's voice, he didn't comment on it. Dismissed. As the holograms vanished, Kisame once again looked down at his last slice of sweet apology cake. He took a bite out of it, savoring its taste. Man. I hope she takes the rest of those assholes, think she'll keep making these cakes. Without a doubt, Itachi said, honestly hoping for the same thing. Chapter 20, Zombie Boys. Haku. Haku was carrying a basket draped in pink cloth. It was a very feminine and pretty-looking basket, and if Haku was insecure he might have been uncomfortable carrying such a thing in public. But Haku didn't mind in the slightest. He was, as Sakura dubbed it, gender fluid, and was perfectly fine masquerading as a girl whenever he wanted to. He liked cute things. Although he didn't like it when people stopped to stare at him on the street. He understood he was a pretty boy and he drew the gazes of both genders. That didn't mean he enjoyed their looks. He couldn't help it if he was born with good genetics. Which was why he was most comfortable wearing a mask. But Mei had become increasingly insistent that he didn't hide his good looks, and should instead embrace them. She might have only said this to convince him to dress up in a kimono, though. Haku approached the Mizukage tower, heading past the guards on duty and giving a polite nod to the secretary. He headed up to the highest floor where he could already hear his master and Mei arguing. And I told you to stop dressing Haku up like a goddamn doll. Zabuza snarled. He's adorable. Mei shouted back. Beautiful people ought to embrace their blessings. It's for the betterment of the world. In what way? Zabuza howled. Haku cleared his throat politely when he entered the room. Zabuza had his hands on Mei's desk and was leaning over it. Mei was leaning forward as well, her face barely a few centimeters away from Zabuza. Both were red-faced, and when Haku announced his presence they abruptly jumped back. Sakura-chan will be happy to hear about this, Haku thought. He held up the basket. Sakura-chan sent a goodie basket for Mei-sama. Mei's entire face lit up like the sunrise. She had originally been skeptical of Sakura's delightful treats, but after seeing Zabuza and Haku wolf them down a few times she eventually gave in. She was hooked instantly. Mei tried to persuade the Hokage to send Sakura with the Konoha delegation to work on their alliance, but Sakura was already going to Suna. It was unfortunate timing, but Mei was damn determined to convince Sakura to defect from Konoha and be her personal baker. I also have a note from Sakura for you, Haku went on. She'd like to ask you to officially join her harem. In doing so, she will send a goodie basket twice a month, along with the official harem clothing. Clothing Haku proudly wore on his days off because they were extremely comfy. He caught Zabuza wearing the pajamas every now and then. Mei thought for all of 3 seconds before she said, of course. Does she need my sizes? Haku recited Sakura's written response to that, everyone knows a goddess's sizes. That made Mei giggle flirtatiously, while Zabuza made a scoffing noise. Goddess my ass, Zabuza grouched. He wasn't able to dodge Mei's hands, and the Mizukage promptly threw him out her window. She turned back to Haku and said with a smile, please let Sakura-chan know I'll gladly accept. I'll write a letter to her shortly, if you don't mind sending that along. Haku nodded shortly, happy with this outcome. Of course. I'm sure Sakura-chan would be very happy to hear from you. Sakura. Look, I cut in sharply, taking a seat at the table for breakfast the following morning, if you want to keep talking about my boy's dick, you're gonna have to become his dick advocate. There is no other way. Otherwise Hina-chan is gonna kick your ass. Sai didn't respond immediately, considering my argument. Naruto was torn between wanting to vehemently reject the idea, and wanting to always enable my insanity. Kakashi and Tenzo were watching Naruto's inner conflict with no hidden amount of amusement. You know, Naruto, Kakashi casually slid in, if you asked her to not make you get a dick advocate then I bet she would. She's your best friend, right? Naruto was sucking on his inner cheeks, glaring hatefully at Kakashi. But having a genital advocate is great, I persuaded him. I mean, Kakashi's butt really appreciates all the work I do. I absolutely deny that with every fiber of my being, Kakashi informed me. You ignore your butt, you can't understand what it's saying, I dismissed. Hear that? Sakura-chan's the best and you should join her harem? I think that's what your booty wants. Kakashi shook his head. Are you officially asking me? Nope. Not until I know for certain you'd join, and I know exactly when that will happen, I said with a wicked grin. When the high priest has descended from his retreat, and he joins my harem. You will follow him. Is the high priest Deadpool or Obito? Sai questioned. I do not remember which one. Okay, so high priest of insanity is Deadpool, I explained, but high priest of the goggle gods is Obito. He has the rainbow stick story, and when I have proven my worth he will enlighten me. Sai nodded, accepting this information. And what are you? I am the priestess who hears their stories, I answered. And Kakashi's butt advocate who gets daily hugs. And if I were to become Naruto's genital advocate, Sai said slowly, ignoring how Naruto cringed, would I be a part of this religion? Why am I here? Sasori bemoaned, burying his face in his hands. My boy toy was finally starting to show the signs of cracking after listening to our wild conversations for the past few days. Take me to Tni, please. You could become an acolyte, I offered Sai. The Bakushi temple hasn't been built, yet, though. Kakashi made a groan of distaste at that, and Tenzo gave his senpai a consoling pat on the back. Sai considered all of this. You can stop this, Naruto, Tenzo tried to persuade him. Breakfast meals don't have to be about your little me. Naruto looked over at Tenzo, then he looked Sai dead in the eye and said with a completely straight face, Sai, will you be my dick advocate? Sai didn't hesitate. Yes. Kakashi and Tenzo moaned as I let out a hoop and high-fived my best friend. See? That's why I love you the most. I know, Naruto said, grinning. But, no offense Sai. I don't swing that way, so you're just an advocate. Sai nodded. Yes, I understand. I am curious about the religion of the goggle gods, so I would like to pursue what it means to be an acolyte. Stop converting people, Tenzo scolded me. I can't help it if people want to join the fun side, I said with a shrug. Speaking of fun side. Kimimaro, sweetheart, you want to join us? Kimimaro silently stood in the doorway of the kitchen, having come up from his room from the smell of a hot meal. He shifted his weight, uneasily looking around at us. I patted the empty seat next to me, giving him a big warm smile. Simir. I promise we'll keep it clean now. Oh, sure, for him, Kakashi muttered. He is a precious little angel and deserves to be cherished, I said sternly. Naruto, say hi to your brother from another mother. Hi brother from another mother, Naruto greeted him, waving. Come on. I'll tell you the story about how we saved a princess. Kimimaro hesitantly took a seat in between Naruto and myself. Okay. Naruto gave him a big sunny smile. My best friend understood that Kimimaro's memories were jumbled up, and the dear was suffering from PTSD and general anxiety. Therapy definitely helped, but it was time to start establishing a social support network. I thought Naruto would be a good first friend, outside of me, because Kimimaro already acknowledged me as his caretaker and someone who cared deeply about him. He and Tenzo already had a tentative bond, and I hoped that after Kimimaro opened up a bit more to Naruto that he and Tenzo would officially become friends. I woke up that morning and I thought to myself, today I wanted to be a guy. So I went about binding my chest as tight as I could, swapping out my usual outfit for thick black pants and a red hoodie, and I pulled my hair into ponytail a bit like Itachi's. My change in appearance wasn't commented on at breakfast, and only when everyone was gathered at our meeting point did Naruto ask, what happened to your boobs? I'm a boy today, I explained. They stared at me in silence. Of all the things that could have been said, I'm glad it was that, Kakashi finally settled on. Does this mean you need a dick advocate? Sai questioned, perfectly serious. I considered this. I guess I do need an imaginary dick advocate. You wanna volunteer? Sai nodded, accepting this noble task. And that was that. Back to business. I thought we'd take a break from missions and focus on training for a while, Kakashi told us. Specifically, I wanted Naruto to learn about nature change in chakra. Sakura, I know you probably need to work at the hospital. Rightio, I confirmed. Cool beans, then. While Naruto's sweating out here in this heat, I'll get to sew arms back onto dumbass. Great day already. That got a small snort out of Sasori, which made me beam like a sunrise. So, I said with a smile, who's gonna be my escort? Kakashi and Tenzu exchanged looks. A silent argument was made between the two before Kakashi sighed and said, I will. Tenzu will supervise Naruto's training. I let out an eep of joy at that, launching myself at Kakashi for my daily joyous hug. The ex-Umbu captain accepted it with grim reluctance, and started walking towards the hospital, with me still clung onto him. I didn't have to let go until we got there. Things fell into a comfortable routine for a week. Sasori was surprisingly entertained by my outrageous patience and surgeries. He floated above most of the procedures and gave clipped remarks here and there, and he actually chuckled when he saw the look of one of the patients when he realized what I'd have to do to treat him. He was equally amused when Anko and I got together and tormented whatever poor sap she accidentally poisoned. He even suggested a few recipes that had me itching to try out. What I'm trying to say is there is no better bonding technique than witnessing the sheer stupidity of some dummies. And getting to relish the look on their faces when you pull out the big needles. All too soon our routine was put on hold and our team was sent off on another mission. Naruto, Naruto's dick advocate, Kakashi, and Kakashi's butt advocate. Together again and ready to take on the world. It was gonna be swell. I get to use a new poison, I squealed out in delight, unable to stop myself from glancing over at Sasori with unhidden affection. Don't look so happy. It's merely a combination I wanted to try for myself, Sasori snapped back insistently. Since your summons can procure ingredients with ease, the most rational thing to do was give you the recipe to try out. I love you, I told Sasori, and everyone in my team sighed and responded back with, I know. Except Naruto, who perked up and said, I love you, too. I clapped my hands excitedly. This is gonna be great. Oh, boy. It didn't take long to figure out which mission we were sent on. It was, drum roll, please. The 12 Guardians arc. We were summoned to meet some monks near the fire temple. Canonically, when the other party would fail to show up, Naruto would get separated from Team 7. He'd end up stumbling upon one of the 4 hidden tombs Team 7 was asked to protect. There, Naruto meets Sora, who mistakes Naruto for a grave robber and attacks him. As it happens, the tombs end up getting raided by some big baddies. Namely Fudo, Fuka, Fien, and their leader Furudo. In canon, Team 7 kind of gets their ass handed to them by these filler villains, and Sai gets hospitalized. Sora has to replace Sai, and then the baddies end up creating a zombie apocalypse in Konoha. The baddies obviously get defeated, though, and the zombies are taken care of. Upon realizing all that was about to happen, I decided to fuck up the storyline for shits and giggles. I'm gonna go to the bathroom for, 2 hours, I told the group suddenly. Came Kakashi. What? I'll be back in 2 hours. Meet y'all at the temple. You can't go alone, Kakashi said flatly. I swear I'll be safe, I promised him. But I just know I gotta go now. I promise I'll be back. Just let her go, Naruto said. We trust her, right? Kakashi hesitated. Sure. Have fun pooping, Sai politely informed me. Yeah, it'll be a blast, I said, skipping off into the forest. Although I wasn't actually going to the bathroom, obviously. Nope. This was the Sora arc. Which meant that there were a bunch of grave robbers that were essentially free test subjects for my new poison. And I just so happened to know where they would be gathering in 15 minutes. Teehee. It didn't even taken me 13 minutes to find where their leader, Furudo, was. Having knowledge of the future was such a cheat. Woohoo! I get to kill the main villain this time. I let out a big cheer at that. Kakashi got to kill the last two big baddies all by himself. Now, though? Now it's my time to shine. I couldn't stop myself from doing a little dance in place. The soon-to-be-dead villain gave me a look of plain disdain. You insane scum! You think you will so easily defeat me? I kept on dancing. Oh, honey, I know I will. Ibus, my baby, show this plebeian my love. Ibus jumped out from the ground, bellowing out enough poison to cover the entire area. My dancing got a little bit more sporadic and happy as I hopped over toward the now seizing villain. It causes seizures. Sasori observed with interest. I would have thought it would lead to cardiac arrest. Oh, wow, he's starting to foam at the mouth. I exclaimed, pausing in my amazing dancing to examine him. Ew, it stinks. Sasori and I watched the poison do its work for another half an hour. The seizures stopped once he started bleeding out of his ears. Think it caused an aneurysm? I asked Sasori. Or do you think he drowned in his own fluids? Hard to say without doing an autopsy, Sasori commented on. I whipped out my bag of medical supplies. Welp. Let's remedy that. Ibus, you're the best and I love you. You use that word too easily, Sasori told me. You underestimate my feelings, I returned. Man, I was having the luckiest mission ever. After I finished my autopsy of the big baddie, I ran into the last 3 of the baddies and got to use the poison on them, too. They all had similar reactions to the first one, but they didn't last as long. I was positively gleeful at being to test out the new poison on so many willing subjects, and all of their autopsies confirmed that the poison killed via aneurysms. Which was surprising since we thought for sure it was supposed to induce a cardiac arrest and eventually stop the heart of the victim. Oh, chemistry, how you fascinate me. The results were enlightening enough that Sasori gave me several new recipes to try out and he actually seemed almost giddy about it too. Or about as giddy as Stoic Puppet could get. I could tell, though. I could see the gleam in his eyes. When I regrouped with my team over an hour later I had a big grin on my face and was carrying around a few corpse storage scrolls. Hey everyone! Guess what adventure I got to go on? A completely epic one. Naruto asked. Anything's better than the absolutely boring night we've been through. Actually, yes. I chirped. I killed all the bad guys for this mission. We can go home. They stared at me for a few seconds. Okay, great, Kakashi said. Got their corpses? Yep, I said, patting the scrolls. We can give them to the main monk then head back. No problemo. Wow, this was really easy, Naruto remarked. It would be nice if all missions went this smoothly, Sai observed. Is this the part where we give thanks to the goggle gods? We do that while indulging on junk food at home. With the Sora arc out of the way then the next part would be Zombie Duo. In just 1 week I'd get to add 2 more lovely individuals to my harem. Gosh, I couldn't wait. I better get the ingredients for my apology cakes for Kisame-sama and Itachi. Oh. And I better talk to Anko about Jashin again, make sure she's still interested. With Tsunade's help, we were able to pinpoint the location that the Akatsuki duo would be heading to submit the monk's bounty. Asuma's original team would still head out there and we would send search party to all the other points because we didn't want to let on to how much we knew. Especially since Project Uproot, BADUM-TSS, has begun. With Orochimaru's list of compromised agents, Jiraiya was rushed back into the village, secretly, so not even Naruto knew, and Tenzo was put back into Umbu temporarily. I didn't know all the details, but I knew the two of them were slowly kidnapping Root members, releasing them of Danzo's seals, and giving them to the Clean TNI agents to either rehabilitate or take care of. Officially they were being sent out on long-term missions by Tsunade. It wouldn't draw too much attention from Danzo for a while, at least. When more than half the Root members have been taken care of, Tsunade would move in to capture Danzo herself. I hoped that would line up with my reunion with Sasuke and Itachi. It definitely helped Sasuke's mentality if he got to kill Danzo. And why way so we would send out hunting teams to each base to show we didn't know what was going on. And we weren't gonna tell Asuma's group what was happening. Nah, no need. Because I'd be tagging along in secret. It was gonna be great. Kakuzu. Everything was going great. He submitted a hefty bounty on some monk, and was about to get himself another cash-in with this new bounty. Hidan was about to win against Asuma, and not a moment too soon since Kakuzu was getting bored of dealing with the worthless Konoha shinobi with him. And then things took a turn toward shitty. Kakuzu felt the ground rumble before he noticed the oncoming chakra signature from below. He leaped back and away, dropping his hostages and watching the ground with narrowed eyes. His moronic partner didn't even notice until his ritual circle was effectively destroyed as a massive salamander leaped up from the ground. On top of it was Kisame's fangirl. Kakuzu thought with disbelief. The pinkette was laughing maniacally, flipping off her summon as Hidan fell flat on his ass, his jutsu cancelled out. What the fuck? The salamander's tongue lashed out and wrapped around the bounty that was only a split second away from being Hidan's next victim. Asuma let out a surprised grunt, and then the salamander swallowed him whole before doing the same thing to the other shinobi. Kakuzu snarled to himself, realizing what was about to happen, and dashed towards the salamander. The kunoichi slapped her hands onto the ground and a massive wall rose up in between Kakuzu and her summon, her laughter rising up to a higher pitch and becoming positively gleeful. Kakuzu immediately destroyed the wall, but it was too late and the salamander was gone, along with his bounty. Wait a minute. Your fish-face's girlfriend. Hidan realized, pointing an accusatory finger towards her. She blew him a kiss, sauntering over to him and extending her hand as an offer to help him. His idiot partner actually accepted the offer and she easily lifted him onto her feet. That's right, darling. I'm Sakura, priestess of the Goggle Gods and acolyte of Jashin-sama. What? Kakuzu thought. Oh, no, don't tell me. Hidan's face lit up like a firework. What? No fucking way. Way, Sakura reassured him, turning around and lifting up her shirt to show him something on her back. See? I got the mark. Holy fuck. What the hell are you doing in Konoha? Hidan laughed. I'm still under service with the Goggle Gods, which requires me to be in Konoha, she explained to him, ignoring Kakuzu's blatant killing intent being focused on her. Under Jashin-sama's fifth commandment. Acceptance of shared religions can hold equal value, Hidan finished, grinning like mad. No fucking way. I thought I was the last after the temple got destroyed. She shook her head. Oh, no. I'm actually trying to convince Tianai to set up an altar. I've got one potential new convert named Anko. Kakuzu, we gotta go to Konoha, Hidan insisted. Absolutely not, Kakuzu hissed out. We're wanted by Konoha. Sakura nodded. Sorry, Hidan. I'm working with Konoha to get that fixed, but you'll have to wait a few months. Feh. Oi. You owe me a sacrifice, Hidan told her. Not cool messing with mine. I'll bring you dozens of sacrifices if you allow me to help you, Sakura promised, her lips stretching into a mischievous smile. I do hope you'll both forgive me for what I'm about to do, though. That instantly had Kakuzu back on guard. I'm going to have to invoke the right of the Eighth Amendment. Hidan's face screwed up. What? The religion isn't about to die out, why? You're our last high priest, Sakura pointed out. I have to keep you safe, no matter what. His dumbass partner straight up didn't dodge her senbon that dug straight into his arm. There was a twitch, then he was down for the count. Kakuzu attempted to move away but then. There was a chi-fucking dory straight through Kakuzu's heart, and he could feel the pinprick of another needle. Poison flooded through his system, effectively rendering him unconscious in seconds. Stupid. Fucking. Fangirls. Kisame and Itachi. Kisame and Itachi were staring down at two neatly wrapped cake boxes. There was another package that they knew would contain hand-knitted apparel, and likely more mini-treats. They knew what the boxes meant since it wasn't either of their birthdays. Who did she take? Kisame asked himself. Deidara? Tobi? Kakuzu? Hidan? Maybe Zetsu? Itachi was hoping that she grabbed the zombie duo. It would make the cakes taste all the sweeter. How did she know we would be in a megakure? Kisame wondered out loud. She can see into the future. Itachi guessed privately. HN. Intuitive leap. You don't think she knows this is our headquarters? Kisame asked, a worried tone only barely noticeable in his voice. Itachi could understand his concern. If she did know this was the Akatsuki home base and Itachi would bet all the dango in the world she did, then the Akatsuki would have to hunt her down before she spread that knowledge. Neither of them wanted to do that. Unlikely, Itachi lied. It is more probable that a merchant from outside of Ame recognized us and spread the word. You know Konoha is on the hunt for anyone with clouds. She might have sent the cakes to Ame, thinking we would stop to rest. It is doubtful she would realize what Ame could really mean. Kisame relaxed. Oh. Yeah, you're right. I guess we should open these up, then. Itachi nodded, and the two opened the prettily wrapped boxes. The first cake read, sorry for taking Kakuzu. Gilf is not happy. The second cake read, not sorry for taking Hidan. Kinky boy is funny. Clearly, neither of them showed visible signs of relief at who she had taken, but both were definitely happy about it. Gosh. What a shame, Kisame said, entirely not meaning it. Better not let these cakes go to waste, though. Itachi was already cutting them up. The Kakuzu cake was a dark chocolate, with Hidan being vanilla with a strawberry mouse at the center. He served a slice of each for himself and Kisame, and slowly took the first bite. Divine. How much longer until she's an adult? Kisame asked his partner, savoring each bite. 2 years, Itachi answered. What are the chances that we could save up enough money in that time to get her to open a bakery shop? Kisame asked, dead serious. Itachi thought that was the most brilliant idea his partner had ever had. We will begin taking bounties in earnest starting tomorrow. What's going on? Deidara asked, entering the kitchen. Cake? What, is it someone's birthday? Yeah. Kisame and Itachi did not answer, both pointedly not looking Deidara in the eye. Deidara read the messages on the cake, and he put 2 and 2 together. His face twisted into anger. What the fuck, yeah. Cake. This better not be from that crazy bitch that took my partner, yeah. Kisame and Itachi didn't want to answer that question. She made apology cakes for kidnapping them. Don't tell me she made one for Sasori no Dana and you ate his apology cake, yeah. Itachi decided to act swiftly. Faster than Deidara could move, he forced a piece of Hidan's apology cake into Deidara's mouth. The red-faced young man bit down on it, and the moment he tasted it, clarity washed over his face. He chewed it slowly, swallowed, his anger now entirely gone. Deidara considered his next words. Well, if she's already taken them, better not let this cake go to waste, yeah. Kisame offered him a couple slices, and the Akatsuki member silently accepted them. He had now joined them in their agreement that these cakes were the best damn things in the world. Think she'll take Toby? Deidara asked hopefully. It's only a matter of time, Itachi reassured him. What is going on? Konan inquired coldly, entering the kitchen. The 3 men froze, all of them looking away and refusing to meet her gaze. She also put 2 and 2 together. But before she could begin maiming them, Itachi shoved a piece of cake in her mouth. Clarity washed over her face. She chewed it slowly, swallowed, her anger now entirely gone. Silence fell into the kitchen as Konan promptly took 4 slices of the cake, and left. So we're gonna take some bounties to save up and get a bakery shop for Sakura, Kisame told Deidara. Want in? Yes. Chapter 21, Enter Gilf. Dear Yuki. I've added a GIFL and a Jashinist to my harem now. How neato is that? I'm glad the movie shoot is going well for you, and I do hope you'll be able to convince the director to a side tour in Konoha. I'll bake you all the sweets, and give you a grand tour. With love. Sakura. Dear Gara. B. R. U. H. With love. Sakura. Hidan woke up with a pounding headache and blurred vision. He clutched at his head, blinking rapidly clear away the spots. It still took several minutes before both subsided and he was able to look around his surroundings. He was definitely in a cell. Not a bad one, like he would have expected. He was in a decently comfortable bed and he noticed there was a tray of food at his bedside with a clean floor. Opposite of his bed was a cozy chair, complete with a lamp. There was a doorway beside the chair that Hidan could see housed the bathroom. It was definitely the nicest cell Hidan had ever been in. It also begged the question of what the heck that acolyte had been thinking. He could kind of see where she was coming from. He was the last high priest of Jashin-sama, and if he died then the religion would come to an abrupt end. He had hoped while working with the Akatsuki he would find a suitable village to start up his temple and begin indoctrination, but he hadn't found the right spot, yet. But there was already an acolyte in Konoha. How did she receive the marking? Hidan wondered. The blessing of Jashin-sama wasn't some ordinary tattoo one got on a drunk night. It was a permanent mark on one's spiritual chakra. The only way she could have received such a thing was if Jashin-sama had personally blessed her. Hidan remembered Yasin-sama saving him when he was younger. He remembered Jashin-sama bestowing his blessing on him, and Hidan had received a form of immortality. He could die through starvation or chakra depletion, but everything else would eventually heal. His marking the triangle and circle was a symbol of this specific kind of blessing. Sakura, on the other hand, had the blessing of fire. It was exciting, when Hidan thought about it, that someone else had personally received Jashin-sama's blessing. Not everyone in the religion was blessed such an honor, after all. Most members of the religion marked themselves with the circle and star symbol. If he hadn't personally seen the marking and felt the chakra signature from it he would have thought it a complete hoax. But no, it was true. Another blessed, Hidan thought, a big grin on his face. What's the gift of fire again? Something about a bird. There were over 100 types of blessing, and Hidan had memorized all of them, but it took him a while to remember the more obscure forms of blessing. Some of the common ones were, water, increased regenerative, and immunity to sickness and disease, seer, knowledge of the future, but it was usually very constricting, life, the ability to cure disease and sickness in others, hex, the ability to curse enemies of Jashin-sama for several generations, and lust, mind control over the opposite sex. Hidan racked his brain for several seconds until he remembered what fire meant. Fire, the symbol of a flame, and... His cell door swung open, and a pretty damn hot woman strode in with a leer on her face. Hello, boy. Hidan smirked. Oh? I didn't realize Konoha hired services for prisoners. I'm too expensive for that, the woman purred. No, I'm here for something else, sweet little boy. I'm Anko, Sakura's disciple for Jashin-sama. I'm here to talk to you about Jashinism. Oh, hell yeah. Hidan cheered inwardly, more than excited to finally have a disciple. You've come to the right man. I'm Hidan, High Priest of Jashin-sama. Anko nodded as if she already knew this. Since she was the fire's disciple, she probably did. When we're done here, if all goes well, we may have a few more recruits, Anko said breezily. And some sacrifices, of course. Hidan's grin kept getting wider. Fuck yeah. Welcome to the club, Gilf, I greeted with glee as soon as Kakuzu appeared. The miser immediately glared hatefully at me before he noticed the resigned Sasori beside me. Sasori? Kakuzu asked, incredulous. We thought you were dead. I wish, Sasori deadpanned. We have both been captured by this insane woman, though. I thought you were having fun, I said, tilting my head. Didn't you like seeing how the different kinds of poisons killed our enemies in slow, painful deaths? That was merely an academic curiosity, Sasori insisted. I do not enjoy spending time with you. Okay, Tsundere-chan. Sasori's face twitched, and his hands clenched into fists. I will make you rue the day you were born, you insufferable brat. You're such a cute boy toy, I mercilessly teased, then looked over at Kakuzu with a wink. You seem a little confused, honey. Want me to explain it all to you? Don't, Sasori warned Kakuzu. She'll only spin tales of madness. Come now. Surely you can trust me by now. I asked, tilting my head. You know I love you. Stop saying that, Sasori grouched, turning to address Kakuzu. Do you understand now? She's delusional. Kakuzu was giving me the stink eye. I hope you're prepared for hell, brat. I'll pass on that, thanks though. I noticed a signature moving toward us, so I abruptly held up a finger to my lips. Both men immediately fell silent, and in the next minute Kimimaro entered the kitchen. The sweet boy looked surprised to see me, and he shyly averted my gaze. Good evening, Sakura-san. Good evening, Kimi-chan, I cooed, smiling brightly. What did I say about calling me Sakura-san? Not to. Kimimaro shifted his weight awkwardly, his eyes fixed firmly on the ground. He reminded me of a shy little boy. It made sense, since all his memories pertaining to Orochimaru were sealed away, and he's known Orochimaru since he was a child. Is this the kind of person he would be if Orochimaru hadn't taken him in? I thought. I didn't have anything against Orochimaru personally, but I had to acknowledge he was a villain. He did some pretty hanky stuff, and it would stand to reason that anyone in prolonged contact with him would grow a rather twisted mindset. I thought that was a shame. It'd be nice if Orochimaru could be himself without harming, or manipulating others. In a perfect world, I mused, standing up from my seat and beaming at Kimimaro. Why don't you have some cookies with me? They're still warm. Kimimaro gave me a sweet smile. Okay. Thank you. I reached out and affectionately patted the top of his head. Of course. I headed out to my shift at the hospital, my personal peanut gallery behind me. It was only supposed to be a 12-hour shift, but it ended up stretching to 20 hours because a whole bunch of umbu stumbled into my office with some gnarly wounds. Sasori and Kakuzu found it absolutely fascinating to watch me perform surgery on an Aburame umbu. It was definitely interesting. Thankfully both of my boos, haha, get it? 'Cause they're like ghosts, found surgeries as fun as I did. Both loved learning about anatomy, and Kakuzu was able to join in on one of my favorite debates with Sasori, what the ultimate poison would be. The whole shift flew by in a blink of an eye, and I stumbled home. Tenzo was my reluctant escort with a happy smile. A tired smile, but a happy one. When I woke up, I was only a little surprised to find Naruto curled up in bed with me, using me as a body pillow and snoring. I patted my friend's head. Morning, son of mine. Naruto snorted before he yawned, blinking his eyes open. Oh. Morning. I don't mind being your cuddle buddy, but what's going on? Naruto sighed. I was going to ask Hinata-chan out, but she's been away on a mission. I wanted to talk to you, but you were asleep, so I decided to sleep, too. Makes perfect sense, I said, nodding my head. Welp. I'm up now, wanna get some food? Have I ever refused food? Nope. That's why you're my spirit son. I patted his cheek, then started to change out of my pajamas. Naruto politely looked away, and grabbed his orange jacket. The two of us headed downstairs, where Kakashi, Tenzu, and Kimimaro were eating lunch. Naruto gave them a jovial wave. Morning. It's noon, Tenzu said, shaking his head. You two need to hurry up and eat, Tsunade-sama requested you. Only us? I asked, tilting my head in surprise at that. What about you and Kakashi? We've been assigned to a different mission, Kakashi responded, picking up his plate and beginning to clean it in the kitchen sink. I whined at that. But we're meant to be together forever. What a shame, Kakashi deadpanned. We entered Tsunade's office to find Lee and Neji already waiting for us. My eyes narrowed in suspicion at that and I asked, don't tell me you're trying to replace my perfect butt sensei with these two? I can't ogle at them. You'll be fine, Tsunade dismissed with a cheeky grin. Kakashi is needed elsewhere. He and Guy will be heading out to the front lines. Front lines? We're at war. My eyes widened in surprise. Is it from flying shinobi or stone? Stone, Tsunade said slowly, narrowing her eyes. What's this about flying shinobi? Oh. Some butthurt Uzumaki will revive the flying shinobi people and they'll air raid Konoha, I answered. It's no big deal. Sounds like a big deal to me. Know where they are? I scratched my head. Off the coast. They're in pretty big ships. I don't know much about their movements before the air raid, sorry. I can't sketch some pictures of the evil jerk face, though. Please. Neji cleared his throat. The mission, Tsunade-sama. Tsunade sat back in her chair, folding her hands together. It's a VIP escort mission. You need to take a priestess to a shrine in the land of swamps to seal away the demon controlling the ghost army, the stone army that has emerged and begun attacking all lands. I'm guessing the Goggle Gods have information on this. I gave her a thumbs up. Oh heck yeah. This will be an easy one. Sweet, Naruto declared. Let's finish this up and have my pool party. Neji sighed, giving me a weary look. What do the Goggle Gods know? I'll write up a report on all the baddies we'll be facing. Their poison resistance is practically non-existent, so this will give me a perfect chance to try out some of the fun stuff. We should also prepare some heavy explosives to take out a bunch of puppet soldiers, I told my team, giving a pointed look at Naruto. Naruto beamed. All right. Then I'll make up a bunch of big explosive tags. Naruto, you can make explosive tags? Lee asked, eyes bright. Yep. Been learning Fuinjutsu under the super pervert for the past few years, Naruto declared proudly. Gotta say, I'm not too bad at it. And by that I mean I'm totally a badass. That's my boy, I crowed, then clapped my hands together. Oh. Can you make me colored explosive tags? Like stuff that will explode in rainbows, or red, or Kisame-sama's blue. Naruto rubbed his chin as he thought. Yeah, I think so. Do you all mind waiting for a few hours while I make up the tags? That's fine. Let's meet at the gate at 1700, we'll travel through the night. Yosh. Lee declared for us. Naruto and I headed back home and set to work. Naruto borrowed my bedroom to work on his tags and Kimimaro joined him, out of curiosity, while I started brewing poisons and antidotes alongside Gadu and Doku. If you're dealing with morons that rely on super-powered chakra, you should use a poison that targets chakra, Sasori suggested. I nodded, agreeing with this, and turned to Kakuzu, who looked like he wanted to say something. Yes, dear. You can truly brew any poison? Kakuzu asked, gesturing toward Gadu and Doku. Yep. Ever heard of Black Death? Kakuzu asked, and Sasori's face lit up like the 4th of July in America. No, like a little kid who was just told he could have all the toys in the toy store on Christmas. Boy Toy was happy. No. I asked, curious about why two grown men seemed like they were about to explode from fanboying. Do you know how to make it? Sasori demanded of Kakuzu, a bright gleam in his eyes. I do, but it was too complicated to make a successful batch, Kakuzu answered, glancing over at Doku excitedly, or as excitedly as a grumpy old miser could get. What's the Black Death? I asked. The most vile poison in the history of poisons, Sasori responded. Long ago, there was a genius poison mistress who invented it to purge a corrupt temple. Hundreds of people dead within the hour from one inhale. What makes it so vile is that it doesn't disperse for years. It's a lingering plague. Goosebumps crawled up my arms from excitement. Oh my gosh, that sounds so cool. We have to try out this mission. But only if there's an antidote, since I don't want to accidentally kill the person I'm escorting. I don't know the antidote, Kakuzu admitted. Then you and Sasori better start brainstorming. As soon as we've got an antidote, I'll test it out. I promise. I clapped my hands together excitedly. Oh man, this is going to be great. I brewed up a few more new poisons Sasori and Kakuzu wanted to test out. These all had antidotes that Gada verified would work and bottled them up. Some of them were put in bombs that would have them explode out as a gas, while others would serve well to coat weapons. When it was time for all of us to meet up, I handed out a fair share of poisons and antidotes, and off the 4, plus 2 ghosty ghosts, of us went. We traveled through the night, and I explained what I knew about the events to unfold. We all agreed that if we could go ahead and kill the 4 henchmen outright, we should do so. The 4 big bad henchmen would bust into the priestess's castle to try and kill her. They'd slaughter a good portion of the amount of men protecting her before we could reach them, and just before they'd get to the priestess, Naruto would jump in between. Naruto would then use his shadow clones to force them all outside, and his clones would carry away the unconscious guards, and then we would really go to town on killing them. The important thing was to make sure they didn't escape to replenish their chakra. Neji would run ahead of us to make sure no one snuck by us, though. Gotta be extra safe. Our team ran on through the night, and as dawn finally began to break through the trees, the castle came into sight. Naruto blitzed straight on, creating a massive amount of shadow clones to carry the soldiers and guards away before bursting in through the front door. Neji followed behind him, but went over the castle to meet up with the priestess as she was escaping. Lee and I prepared to greet the four henchmen. I tossed him a few poison bombs, and I coated my kunai with good old Kreit's kiss. Barely a minute after Naruto headed into the castle did the four hench rush out, with a mob of Naruto shadow clones right at their heels. I threw the first poison bomb directly at them, and blue gas exploded outward, covering the entire area before rapidly dispersing. Woohoo! More test subjects! I cheered joyfully. Of course, the poison I had used there was a new one called Orchid's Dance, courtesy of Kakuzu, and it wouldn't show immediate effects. It'd definitely kill them within the hour, though, like all good poison should. What is this nasty stuff? One of the unimportant movie henchmen complained. But there wasn't any time for a proper conversation, since Lee dove head first into the trio, slamming a poison bomb directly into the chest of one of them. Boom. This time it was an explosion of red gas. This one was called Scarlet Fever, invented by Sasori, and the henchmen leapt away, stumbling as they did so. Poison. One of them wheezed, dropping to their knees. Poison is OP, I observed. Ridiculously OP. At least against trash. Ugh. Why do a lot of the hot villains have immunity? Madara-sama should not be immune to poison, that's just not fair. I won't be able to use my strip poison on him. Of course, no one really cared about my bemoaning. It made sense why some of them had high resistances, or straight up immunity. Madara, Obito, and Itachi were bona fide Uchihas, which granted them plot hole power. All relevant Uchihas gained poison immunity to a certain extent. Nagato and Konan were born and raised in Megakure, one of the villages renowned for their poisons. Same went for Kisame and Sasori, although since he turned his body into a puppet, he gained a new vulnerability to certain poisons. Frankly speaking, it was straight up unfair that I couldn't use my original poison on them. I worked hard to make a hallucinogen that would make you strip. I should at least be able to use it on Madara. But, nope. Madara was too dang powerful. At least it took care of movie henchmen for me. Oh. It looks like the two have combined perfectly, Sasori observed as all three of the henchmen doubled over in pain. I pulled out my notebook and began to take notes. Oh, my. Fascinating, Kakuzu observed when one of them projectile vomited. That's sick, Naruto decided, grimacing. Ugh. That's gross, how can you watch that, Sakura-chan? I think it's cool, I defended. I think I'm going to go find Neji. Yeah. Naruto inched away from the soon-to-be corpses. Lee, wanna come? Yes, Lee responded, looking eager to get away from the movie villains. Oh. I didn't expect their eyes to explode, Sasori commented. From the blood vessels, you think? Kakuzu mused. We'll do an autopsy once we've healed up the soldiers, and checked in with the priestess, I told them. What a lovely day. Both Akatsuki members agreed with me. It took 20 minutes before the henchman officially died. Neji got a solid cut on the fourth henchman. He went after the priestess while we were dealing with the other three, and Kreit's kiss had him on his knees within minutes. So, all four of the movie henchmen were effectively eliminated before they caused any real trouble. Once I was done taking notes, I set about performing my duty as a doctor and healing up the soldiers. About a dozen of them required the use of Shosen, while the rest got off with minor injuries. Thankfully none of them needed transplants, or other risky surgeries, so I was able to get everyone taken care of within 2 hours. During that time, my team helped clean up and set up traps around the castle. The priestess wouldn't see to any of us until her men were taken care of. Shion, the priestess we were tasked to protect, met with us later that morning. She was donned up in her formal attire, and sat upon her throne while we took our seats in front of her. She certainly a cutie, with long pale blonde hair and pretty purple eyes. Not as much of a cutie as Hina-chan, of course, but definitely someone you'd wanna cuddle with on a rainy day. Plus she was a soft tsundere, a proper rarity. Soft tsunderes were tsunderes that didn't resort to violence. They were the type to use cold words to cover up their emotions, and try to distance themselves from others in fear of getting hurt. Her attendant, Taraho, bowed and said, "Behold, Shion, the priestess of the land of ogres." "I am Hyuga Neji, leader of Team 7, Neji introduced. "Rock Lee." Lee saluted. "Haruno Sakura," I said with a wink. "Uzumaki Naruto." "We've come to escort Shion-sama to the Ceiling Shrine," Neji said. "A lot of lives were lost in the assault last night, and just as Shion-sama foretold, Sasuke was among them," Taraho murmured quietly. Shion scoffed. "Naturally. But as you can see, I still breathe. I'm sure they shoulder no regret." "Oi," Naruto growled out, instantly triggered, but I grabbed his hand. He looked back at me in confusion, and I gave him a smile and wink. "Don't worry, honey. She's upset, but she doesn't want to show weakness," I soothed him, pulling him back down to sit beside me. "She's their priestess, which means she has to present herself in a certain way." "Oh." Naruto sat back down, looking back up at Shion with a furrowed brow. "I'm sorry for your loss." Shion's face remained impassive, but there was a glimmer of grief inside of her eyes. She pursed her lips and said in a quiet voice, "Thank you." Returning to the matter at hand, "You said that you were here to escort me." "Correct," Neji answered on our behalf. "When will you be ready to leave?" "Give me an hour," came her response. "Dear Sakura. A Jationist in a gilf? I have to admit I don't know what a Jationist is, so please enlighten me." "But the gilf. Did I ever tell you my first love was an old man?" "Well, he claimed he was an old man, and acted like a damn miser, but he didn't look old. It was right after my first gig, and I was feeling worse than usual. I stumbled into a bad crowd, but then this man came in and beat them all down. He said it was because the leader had a bounty, not to help me, but oddly enough he kept showing up. Maybe it really was all a coincidence, but then again maybe not. One thing led to another, but we eventually had to part ways for good. A bit of a summer romance and probably completely one-sided, but it's still one of my fondest memories. Although I didn't even catch his name. Sorry for the dump. Yours. Yuki. Dear Sakura. What? Yours. Gaara. Chapter 22 and 23, Yuki's Ship. I was officially one for 3 out of movie royalties joining my harem. Darn priestess rejected my offer as soon as we finished escorting her. I even used all my best flirting tactics, which made Naruto howl with laughter on multiple occasions. Neji tried to keep a poker face but fail, and Lee to struggle not to snicker, but it was to no avail. We finished our mission, completed the movie without a single friggin' issue because we killed the bad guys right off the get-go, and my team had to watch me get rejected by the soft tsundere. Unfair. Oh, well. Hopefully she would still have a long and happy life, and maybe one day in the future she and QDMC cute stuff would change their minds and join me in my awesome harem. We returned to Konoha, and after dropping off our mission report, I headed home. Darlings, I'm home. I sang out with gusto. Brightheart yipped and dashed over to greet me, wagging her patchy tail with glee. To my delighted surprise, Kimimaro also came to greet me. "Oh, hello there, pumpkin pie." "Welcome home," Kimimaro said shyly. "I've been reading a lot of your medical texts." "Oh, yeah? Wanna be a doctor?" "Yes." "Whoa. Did not expect actually, given his pacifist nature, becoming a doctor sounds perfect for him." With a splitting over my face, I raised my hands into 2 thumbs up. "Okay. Why don't you tag along with me to the hospital this weekend?" He smiled. Kimimaro smiled. "Goggle gods, thank you for this blessing," I thought to myself, unable to resist leaping at the pretty boy and hugging him tightly. "I'm going to treat you so well," I whispered to him. He hugged me back. Kimimaro hugged me back. With the sweetest voice he said, I know. Barely a week later, and I had invited my team over for lunch. Sai politely declined since he had to report to a certain little warmonger, but Naruto gleefully accepted. Tenzu took the opportunity to give himself a break from me since there would be plenty of strong shinobi at home to watch over me. The poor dearie looked so happy about that, even ignoring the betrayed glare Kakashi shot at him. Once Naruto showed up, I set to cooking, merrily chatting with him and Kakashi while I worked. A pleasant 10 or 15 minutes went by before we were joined by another guest. Hinata stepped into my home while I went about making lunch for my dear companions. I could sense her chakra before I saw her of lilacs and warm summer ponds, and when she entered the kitchen she did so with her head held high. S.A.Chan. I lead a mission by myself, and succeeded. This immediately warranted stopping everything I was doing to rush over to her and body tackle her. Omigoshi Misa proud. Good job, Hina-chan. Naruto cheered, applauding. Come eat lunch with us and tell us all about it. A small blush dusted over Hinata's cheeks, and she beamed. She hugged me for another few seconds before sitting down beside Naruto, Kakashi, and Kimimaro. I did a little twirl before returning to making the best goggle-darn lunch anyone ever ate, in ever. Hinata brushed back her long hair behind her ear and said, Kiba-kun, Shino-kun, and I were tasked with investigating one of Orochimaru's bases. Huh. That sounds an awful lot like but nah. Unfortunately, when we got there the base was destroyed, Hinata went on. We stayed a few days to see if we could uncover anything else, but then we were ambushed by some of Orochimaru's men. One of them was a crystal user by the name of Guren, just like S.H.N predicted. I froze, turning around to gape at her. I had, of course, given Hinata a brief rundown of the Sanbi arc so that way she could kick some major booty. But it, ashamedly, didn't even cross my mind that her team would never call us for backup. No. My chance to prematurely meet the Yumito Baito. As soon as I realized who Guren-chan was, I began to initiate negotiations with their team. Since I remembered S.H.N wanted her to join the harem, Hinata cheerfully went on. It took a few weeks, and more than once I had to restrain some of the more rambunctious members of Guren-chan's team, but the negotiations were a success. Hinata glanced over at Naruto, her smiling dazzling. I learned from Naruto-kun, and S.H.N, after all. Once I listened to their issues, and offered help and advice, they were much more willing. Holy shit, I breathed out. Therapy no jutsu has taken another messiah. Sasori moaned, burying his head in his hands while Kakuzu looked up at the ceiling and asked, why? No, Kakashi whispered in disbelief, scooting away from Hinata. So, our team escorted Guren-chan and her team over to Kirigakure, where Maisama happily took in Guren-chan, Yokomaru-kun, and Gon-kun. Hinata single-handedly solved the Sanbi arc. I dropped down to my knees. My goddess. I'm so proud of you. Hinata giggled in that adorable way, beaming happily at all the praise. I couldn't have done it without your help, S.H.N. All the knowledge you gave me, along with your support, ensured my success. I'm unbelievably jealous of your future husband right now, I admitted to her. Unable to hold back my desire to body tackle someone again, I threw myself at Kakashi. He sighed with resignation, accepting the impromptu cuddles with the air of a grumpy old man. There was a knock at my door, and I didn't immediately recognize the chakra signature. Curious, I pulled myself away from Kakashi. He sighed with relief and headed over. Brightheart hobbled up next to me, giving me her cute little doggy smile. Opening the front door revealed none other than feudal lord of spring, Yuki. Kakuzu looked like he had the wind knocked out of him. Yuki-chan. I said in surprise, my eyes widening. Oh my goggle gods, what are you doing here? The beyond gorgeous actress was dressed stylishly, and with huge sunglasses to cover her face. The fact that I didn't see any guards, or escorts, immediately told me that no one knew she was coming here. Isn't it obvious? I'm here to surprise you. I opened my arms. Darling. Dear. She laughed, accepting my hug. We're filming in Konoha. Since you gave me your address, I thought I'd pop in to say hello. Well, do more than that, I said, opening my door wider. Come in for lunch. I'm making salmon risotto. Don't mind if I do, she said, stepping in. Upon noticing my puppy, she smiled sweetly and bent down to let Brightheart sniff her. Oh, this is Brightheart, isn't it? She's as adorable as she is in the pictures you drew. A prideful blush grew over my cheeks. Heh. Yeah. I'm a proud mama. She's a good girl. Brightheart gave Yuki's hand a tentative lick before shyly lowering her head and hobbling to stand behind me. I guided Yuki into the kitchen, where Naruto and Kakashi cheerfully greeted her. Hinata bowed politely, introducing herself, and Kimimaro quietly followed suit. Yuki took a seat at the table, and I headed back over to the stovetop to keep mixing the risotto. So watch you filming in Konoha. Another Gale Hime movie? Naruto asked her excitedly, leaning on the edge of his seat. You know, if you need a handsome actor. Yuki immediately cut in to avoid brutally rejecting that offer. We're filming Love is Timeless. It was actually mostly written by Sakura-chan, with only a few tweaks. It's the story about a charming, eccentric girl struggling to choose between her love of her teacher, and the devilishly rugged Shark-man mercenary, Yuki explained brightly, ignoring how nearly everyone else at the table pointedly looked over at mortified Kakashi. It has such an amazing plot twist, too. A lover from her past life named Maddie resurrects and practically steals the whole show. I won't spoil the ending, though. Now the looks were being tossed my way. Even Sasori and Kakuzu were staring at me with blatant disbelief. What? I said. It's completely original and not at all based on my fantasies. Sasori gestured toward me, giving Kakuzu a look of, see. I told you. She's insane, Kakuzu uttered, as if he couldn't quite believe how insane I was. I'm not crazy, I'm just fun, I insisted. So, how about that lunch? Naruto asked, blatantly not touching that subject. Coming right up. After lunch, I promised to take Yuki around Konoha. I first went to change out of my sweats, and while I was doing so Kakuzu asked me, how do you know her? I saved her life, and put her as the next feudal lord of spring, I answered, frowning as I peered at him. You know her, don't you? But how, oh my gosh. It's you. You're the old miser that saved her life. Kakuzu saving a life. Sasori snorted. Absurd. We've already established that she's insane, ignore her, Kakuzu said, most definitely not looking me in the eyes. Oh my gosh, hello new ship. A devilish grin stretched over my face. I rushed over to my desk, yanked out my sketchbook, and sprinted downstairs to where Yuki was having a delightful conversation with Kakashi. Yuki-chan. Tell me that old miser that rescued you, is this him? I flipped open to a bare-chested sketch of Kakuzu, ignoring Sasori's look of disgust and Kakuzu saying, please tell me you only have that one sketch of me. Yuki looked over at the sketch and gasped. Yes. That's him. Oh, I could never forget those handsome eyes. Handsome. Sasori repeated, horrified. Kakuzu, don't tell me you seduced a girl when you are nearly 3 times her age. I did no such thing, he snapped, irritated. May I have this? Yuki asked, her eyes glistening with plain admiration. You can have all of them. Just, rip them out and I'll put them in a folder. And, please don't judge my other sketches. Judge. Yuki repeated, flipping through the next page and then gasping. Oh, my. Taken a page from the Icha franchise. Someone has to take up the mantle when Jiraiya-sama retires, I said. Kakashi buried his face in his hands. Please, don't. I'm already working on the next book with Jiraiya, I apologized. Sorry. You don't have lewd drawings of anyone from the Akatsuki, do you? Sasori asked, looking very much like he did not want to ask that. I started to whistle innocently. She does, Kakuzu whispered. Of course she does. I clapped my hands together. Welp. How about that Konoha tour? I'll take you everywhere. Lead the way, Yuki said, clutching at a few sketches of Kakuzu she ripped out. A switch over to Guren. How are you liking Kirigakure, Guren-chan? Mei asked in that charming voice of hers. Guren felt a small smile grace her lips. Very much, Actually. Excellent, excellent. Haku-kun has been treating you well. He's been very kind to Yukimaru and myself, Guren answered honestly. She had never expected the very village she had run from as a child to have turned into this. Kirigakure was once a vile and bloodthirsty village where the strong devoured the weak. Children were either killed or transformed into monsters, and there was no in-between. Now, though, there was an atmosphere of healing, of warmth. Seeing children running through the streets, playing, and laughing, was mind-boggling to Guren. She had truly believed that there could be no such place. While serving Orochimaru, Guren couldn't imagine such a happy place existing. When she was rejected by Orochimaru as his next vassal over Sasuke, Guren had never felt so betrayed. Ever since he had rescued her, he had groomed her for that one right. It was the only thing that kept her through those bitter and cruel nights beside the mad scientist. He took it away from her so easily, and she was left angry and betrayed. And then along came this gentle soul by the name of Hinata. The young woman seemed to know more things about Guren than anyone else. She knew things Guren didn't know about herself. This beautiful kunoichi was able to weave together such sweet words, all the way batting away any resistance Guren and her lackeys threw at her. With ease, Hinata and her team had defeated Guren, and with just as much ease, Hinata started to heal the damage done to Guren's heart. To be honest, the whole thing felt surreal. She could scarcely believe she had agreed to come to Kirigakure at Hinata's suggestion, not that she had much choice, since the Hyuga had proven she could drag Guren there against her will if she resisted, and she was welcomed. Hinata only mentioned, she's a dear harem member, and a powerful crystal user. Like magic, they were escorted to the Mizukage, where Hinata had quiet words with Mei. Then Mei welcomed them into Kirigakure, and the rest was history. The past month Guren was understandably kept on watch, but it was far from uncomfortable. The handsome young man that escorted her around was named Haku, and he treated her with genuine respect. It didn't take long for Guren to realize why the boy had such a devoted fan group following him around, and countless girls and boys confessing their love for him. Mei had a sweet smile on her face. Good. I'm here to share some baked goods Sakura-chan has sent over. She's made a cake just for you and Yukimaru to welcome you to Kirigakure. Guren had never met Sakura before. She didn't even know what the girl looked like. But she knew it was Sakura who told Hinata about her. She knew it was Sakura who orchestrated for Kirigakure to take her in, although as she understood it, the original plan was for Sakura to come to Kirigakure. Haku was thoroughly disappointed that it was only Hinata. She knew it was Sakura who was behind the peaceful life Guren currently lived. She really had to thank Sakura, Guren believed. And when Guren got to try a piece of the cake made just for her, she became a true member of the Sakura harem, and wrote a thank you letter immediately. A week later she received her official harem shirt and sweats. Jumping back in time, switching over to Sasuke. It was over a day before Sasuke got a chance to read Sakura's letter. He had to wait for the perfect opportunity and guarantee Orochimaru wouldn't be around. Dear Princess Duck Butt. How you doin'? Winky face, turn to the back for a drawing of me winking and blowing a kiss at you. Mwah. Flirting aside, I suppose I should get right down to business, huh? You'll be nearing the point where you'll kill Orochimaru. Don't worry, you'll win as long as you play smart. But be warned, Orochimaru has a piece of himself inside your curse mark. If you let your curse mark progress too far, then Orochimaru will possess your body. I've already got plans in motion to get that taken care of, so don't worry too much about it, okay? Next up will be your hunt for your team, and then your brother. Karen will be easy to bring over to your side. Please give her my love, and so will Yugo. Please let Yugo know that Kimimaro is now in Konoha, under my loving custody. He'll soon be joining my harem, so please be sure to extend that offer to Yugo. Karen is obviously invited too because she's adorable, and if you get her and Suijutsu to join, I'll make you lunches for a week when you come back to Konoha. Suijutsu will be tricky to convince. He wants Zabuza's sword, but ain't no way Zabuza will give that up. Especially since I made sure Zabuza stayed alive this time around, and he and Haku are living it up in Kirigakure. P.S. I got the Mizukage to join my harem in exchange for monthly baked goods. You can bribe anyone with food, it seems. But I do have a good counter offer for him, lightning blades. Yeah, I know that he's super sensitive to lightning attacks, which is why it'll make the perfect cover for his weakness. No one expects a lightning user to be vulnerable to lightning. And they're pretty easy to get a hold of, since the last holder buried them in a hideout at 45.6, 37.8 in the Land of Fire. Plus Mangetsu, that's Suijutsu's brother, was able to utilize them fine and dandy. Once your team is gathered, you'll begin your hunt for Itachi. Before you reach your brother, you'll have one big battle face, and that's against Akatsuki members Deidara and Tobi. Both of which are very treasured and precious people for me. I ask that you do not aim to kill either of them, but capture. Tobi will be impossible to capture, but Deidara will be viable. On the next page I will include their abilities, strengths, and weaknesses for you to prepare yourself. I will also like to ask that you please keep your sweet little snaky summons out of this, because they are big babies and I'd hate to see them get hurt. I've also included in the second storage scroll some poison designed for knockouts, and antidotes. Feel free to use them. Once you have defeated Deidara, Tobi will vacate. Please use the red scroll attached to this scroll afterwards. It will summon my sidekick, Ibus, who will take care of Deidara. You will have a few days of rest before you find Itachi. I will find you before your battle, and I'm afraid I have some pretty big news that is too sensitive to put inside a letter. I hope you will remember, and keep, your promise to me 3 years ago. I hope I have proven my knowledge enough to you that you understand that when I say you need to hear this information before your fight, then you need to hear it. Lots of love. Sakura. Sasuke resisted the urge to sigh. That was definitely written by Sakura. That's it for part 10. Thank you for watching and see you on the next video.